So great to be able to welcome you in on this Monday here in the nation's capital, everybody. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. We've got a great lineup for you this time. We'll get to our conversation with State Senator Barbara Favola and Delegate Tim Hugo, both of Northern Virginia, in just a few moments. Also, most of you will hear from a reporter who has tracked violence at Trump rallies. But first, we're joined by Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy and by Hannah Reed. She's a senior at Northwest High School. You two are here to preview a safe dating summit that'll take place this weekend in the county. Lots of good information available. We want to sort of tee that event up and talk about some of the issues surrounding teen dating, and we'll get to all of that in a second. Thanks for coming in. Good to have both of you here. John, before we begin, though, I was wondering if you could offer some thoughts about the tragic events of the weekend. In neighboring Prince George's, an officer was shot and killed quite remarkably at Prince George's Police Headquarters. There's a lot we still don't know about this, but we do know that a relatively young man who was great at what he did,
yes,
and seemingly had a bright future ahead of him, is now lost.
You know, I will tell you, I think, first of all, thoughts and prayers go out to the men and women of the Prince George's County Police Department. I think we in the Washington region have now been struck with tragedies in 3 different jurisdictions about police officers who have lost their lives. We had Ashley Gundan down in Prince William County, shot and killed on the domestic. This random shooting, and again, I don't know the facts of the case. This case will be handled by the Prince George's County State Attorney's Office over there. Look, the atmosphere that exists towards law enforcement in general is you know, it's somewhat toxic in America today, and it's a shame because these young men and women, like this officer Colson, who was shot down as he left the police station in Prince George County, which appears to be a completely random act. We've got to take stock and begin to realize what value these young men and women do as they are helping us maintain stability and safety in our community. In the wake of this loss, Noah Leota, the officer in Prince William County, you know, I hope that we begin to reevaluate how we value the services of these fine young people.
And for those of us in the civilian world who sort of automatically assume that officers will be there when we need them, that they will show up for work every day, because they do, we sort of forget the risks that they take on a 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year basis, and that their families sort of have always in the back of their mind that sense of, okay, my loved one is going off to work today, will they come home tonight?
Well, look, these are people who, to protect us, run to danger, not run away from danger. The natural human instinct to run away, and yet these are the people that put themselves in the line of fire for us time and time again. We just had the business community in my county have the Chamber of Commerce luncheon on Friday afternoon, where nearly 2,000 business people in my community came together to recognize men and women of the fire rescue and police department that actually saved lives. I don't know if you saw the very dramatic footage of the 2 officers who, on a beltway in my county, went into a burning vehicle along the beltway where they literally could have lost their own lives to drag a person out who was unconscious in a vehicle as their car was imploding in a fire along the beltway. This is what these young people do every day in our community, and we've got, again, our hearts and prayers go out to the Colson family and the men and women of the Prince George's County Police Department, but again, we as members of the community should thank them every day for what they do for us.
Well stated, and I appreciate your putting all of that in some perspective for us. Let's talk now about the event that you're going to be involved in this Sunday, I believe, the Safe Dating Summit in Montgomery County. What motivated you to bring experts together around this issue?
Well, Bruce, we've been doing this for 5 years. This is our 5th annual event called Choose Respect. The philosophy behind the Choose Respect conference, which is now in its 5th year, and which will take place this Sunday, March the 20th. The doors open at Richard Montgomery High School at 12:30 in the afternoon. The program itself begins at 1 o'clock. You can go on Facebook and online. You can register. We've already had hundreds of young people in our community register to come to our particular event. But the philosophy here that we have is if we teach young people at the beginning of their dating lives how to treat each other with respect, we think in the long run we can reduce domestic violence in our community. The sad fact, and little known fact, is that in teen dating relationships, 1 in 3 teens will be the victims of violence in their dating relationships. Physical violence, 1 out of 3. 50% actually have threatened violence in their dating relationships. And I will tell you, in Hannah's situation is really not different than the typical case. In most instances, it is invisible to their parents, and the adults in their lives do not know what's actually happening.
Hannah, how do we help young people navigate what has always been a somewhat difficult thing, because we're all fumbling around at first. We're all hoping for the best, but often, you know, just a lot of trial and error, and sometimes you get lucky in your choices, sometimes you don't. What can we do to empower young people and protect them, knowing that they're in a phase of life where they're sort of striking out on their own?
Unfortunately, nowadays in high school and in middle school, there's such a stigma that you need to be this type of, there's so much insecurity that's happening because we're forced to think, oh, you need to look like this, you need to be the best, you need to be popular, all of that. And I think what's most important is making sure students and everyone really knows their value. Because when you bring someone down, when you bully them, you never know what's going on in their lives. Just because someone's social, that doesn't mean their life is okay. And you can't treat someone just how you would like to treat them just because you think you know what's going on in their life, because you really don't. And
part of it is making sure that young people know that if something doesn't feel right, then you can and should take steps to get out of that situation. And if you feel overwhelmed, find someone, older sibling, parent, teacher, anyone who you can rely on for advice, and say, hey, here's what's going on. Help me figure out how to handle this.
Well, yeah, finding that trusted adult is really important. And by the way, the program that we're talking about for Sunday is a program that is run for kids, it's run for parents, and we actually have a separate track for people who speak only Spanish. We're offering this program uniquely to members of our Hispanic community who want to come in and learn about this. Again, what happens here is there are some telltale signs when people are being victims of domestic violence, both in young dating relationships as well as older dating relationships. We look for the telltale signs, you know, physical signs, bruises and things like that. But we're looking for people who are changing behavior, becoming isolated, staying away from their typical friends, because what we see in these manipulative, non-healthy relationships are people who try to control each other in these young dating relationships. You know, teaching someone the lesson that the boy who texts you 500 times a day may not absolutely love you. That behavior may be absolutely destructive, obsessive, controlling, and he's trying to isolate you, or vice versa. And again, getting them to look at what they might perceive as love as a young person, and understanding it as maybe something other than healthy behavior is a real eye-opening event for us. One of the things we also do, Bruce, at this program is we have 50 submissions already in a PSA public service announcement against domestic violence. These PSAs have been put together by children, from young people in our high schools across Montgomery County, and there's a $1,000 award for the winner of that PSA contest. And I will tell you, their work on these PSAs, public service announcements, is spectacular.
What sort of information, what sort of messaging do you think young people would benefit the most from in terms of some of the concerns that John McCarthy and others have been talking about?
I think it's really important, because I know at the conference part of it is you walk in the shoes of someone who has been through it. And I think that's very important, because when you start dating someone, you don't walk in saying, oh, I'm going to get abused and that's fine. No, it starts off good. You're in that honeymoon phase and everything's okay. But as the relationship goes on, it's one thing happens, oh, it's apology, they didn't mean it. And then it starts to happen more and more. And then you're trapped. You feel that, okay, well, I've been with them for so long. It's not like I can leave now. They're the only person that will love me, because of what they tell you. That's what they tell you. And I think at this conference, it's really important, because you'll be in the shoes of someone who experienced that, and then you'll see that it really can happen. It can happen to anyone, no matter what you look like, your financial status, your race, anyone.
John mentioned the prototypical, the hypothetical young person who texts someone 500 times a day.
Not unusual.
You know,
not unusual.
Bad behavior, sadly, has always been around, but with technology the way it is now, with things that can be posted online, it takes dramatically different forms than it used to. Very, very scary stuff can occur, because our impulse, our ability to act in an impulsive way is just a click away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know people, they have to have their significant others, their passwords to everything. They have access to every single account they have. They'll take each other's phones and look through it. There's no type of boundary.
Right.
And they think that's love. Like, oh, they're just checking, blah, blah, blah. No, there needs to be trust. There needs to be boundaries in every relationship.
And so for people who are interested in the conference who haven't signed up yet, is there still an opportunity for parents, for kids, for others who are listening now to take part?
Absolutely. You can go online. It's on Facebook for the Choose Respect Conference this Sunday, March 20th. Doors open at 12:30. Richard Montgomery High School, right in the heart of our county. Accessible by metro and bus right there. And the doors open at 1 o'clock. And I will tell you, it's a wonderful activity. It's fun, it's entertaining, but there's a lot of information for both young people as well as their parents.
Much of it around that theme that derives from the title?
Absolutely. And this is really about learning to respect yourself and demanding that the person that you're involved with respect and understand that there are boundaries in human relationships. And when you're a young person, you're learning what they are for the first time.
Learning on the go, as it were, learning on the fly. Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy, Hannah Reed, a senior at Northwest High School. Thank you both. Hope you have a great event.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Good luck to you, and we appreciate
Thank
very
you,
much
Bruce. Thanks for
coming in
letting
today.
me on. Thank you.
We'll step aside here. When we come back, we'll talk about this year's Virginia General Assembly session down in Richmond. It's over. Big news coming from it. Back with more after this.